My theme this month is from hope to trust, from hope to faith to trust. And as you know, one of our members suggested this. For those of you who attended our last class, the Science of Mind 102, you'll remember that discussion midway through the course. So today I want to talk about practicing faith on the way to trust in our lives. In Hebrews 11 from the New Testament of the King James Version of the Bible, we find this quote. Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. And while that may sound to you like an endorsement for hope, in truth, the key word in that sentence is substance. So now listen to the quote again. Now faith is the substance of hope, the evidence of things not seen. In today's language, we might describe that as the core, or the reality, or the heart, or the meat of the matter. Substance. Faith is substance. In metaphysics, we might describe that by saying, why would we mess around at hope when we can go directly to faith and enhance the process immeasurably? You've also heard me say that faith without action is dead, or inert, or ineffective. And hope, by definition, is not an action. So listen to these words of definition from the Merriam-Webster Dictionary. Hope is wanting something to happen, looking for or wishing something to happen. It may or may not be goal-driven, but it certainly isn't a directed action or practice of clarifying and detracting right and perfect action by communing with the source which creates. And you've also heard me use the word benign in relationship to hope. Benign, by definition, means harmless, but insignificant in its effect. It can be an expression of kindness and without threat, but it's not an action verb. And it's not an act of clarifying, of connecting and detracting that which you intend. And substance is the result, the demonstration, the manifestation, if you will, the evidence of the intention showing up in real time. So you may think this is splitting hairs or playing word games, and if so, it is for you. Or you may choose, as many have before you, to decide that the ongoing development of your faith can only enhance your life and everything in it. This may raise the question for you regarding having faith for others. Knowing that hoping for them could be replaced by demonstrating your faith in their highest and best good, why would you hesitate? And truthfully, when we're able to do just that, demonstrate our faith in their highest and best good, there is no reason to hesitate. The only drawback to that is when the individual himself or herself doesn't know what their own highest and best good is, or they don't believe it's possible. That's the work that each of you is doing on your own behalf, and you can be that example for others, but you can't do it for them. So what's the difference between hope and faith? Going back to the quote, faith is the substance, the evidence of things not seen. Then we turn to the phrase, the evidence of things not seen. And that's all about believing that even though I don't yet see, taste, hold, or spend, I have faith that my clarity, my desires, my intentions my acceptance, my belief at no one else's expense come into full substance in my life. Another way to clarify faith is to know that anything is possible. The entirety of my spiritual practice is devoted to manifesting the positive. With hope, by comparison, I hope that something good will happen and not something bad. I'm wanting and wishing for the good and worrying that something bad might show up instead. Or that it already has, and that's inevitable. You remember the push me, pull you story from the story of Dr. Dolittle? It had a head at either end of its body. So in the vernacular, it could talk out of both sides of its mouth. Clever, but seldom clearly expressing. And which head to believe? Which words to believe? Using Catherine Ponder's book, The Healing Secrets of the Ages, I came across some statements that I'd like to pass on to you. Here's Dr. Ponder saying, to have faith is to believe without a doubt. The words of faith are powerful because it's a deep inner conviction, a state of certainty, a feeling of assurance, a knowing. When we feel this deeply, Ponder says, we liberate an enormous amount of energy. It gives me chicken skin just to think about that. Your thinking is the expression of your faith. Whatever you're firm about in your thinking, you have faith in. Through that firm belief, you release a superatomic energy into your system to work for you or against you, depending upon the nature of your belief. Now, she wrote these words back in the probably 1950s, when we were just beginning to scratch the surface of what this kind of energy field was about. This matter of faith or belief, enter the reality that faith and belief are one and the same. This matter of faith or belief, it does indeed work equally strongly either way. Whatever gets your attention, whatever you're deeply concerned about or convinced about, gets your faith. And whatever you expect and prepare for, you have faith in. I want to read from you a brief passage from her book, Secrets of the Ages, which I've been rereading. I'm looking for my nearsight glasses.
I'll hold the book for you.
Yeah, if you could hold the book back there close to the window, I could read it. So this is a section in the first part of her book titled Faith Hears and Sees. The interesting thing about your words of faith is that they are always creating or dissolving according to what you have faith in, either health or disease. When words of faith have been spoken to large tumors, for example, these false growths have been known to melt away. When words of faith have been spoken to paralyzed organs, they have been restored to life. Yet the same power of faith has equal authority to destroy one's health if used destructively. So here's the story. A woman kept attending healing lectures and repeatedly placed her name in the church's prayer ministry to receive healing prayers. Yet she remained as sick as ever and couldn't understand why. Investigation revealed that she kept talking about her ill health, kept listening to descriptions of all the health problems enjoyed by a neurotic neighbor, and generally immersed her attention in the subject of disease. Through her faith and attention to ill health, she kept it manifesting. Her faith was an irresistible force, but for illness instead of wholeness. Isn't that interesting? And as you think about it over this next week, You'll think about instances where you've observed that in others or in yourself. And I believe it's important for us to access a variety of different writers, teachers, speakers in the philosophy of metaphysics in order to see that the similarities in their conclusions, though their particular choice of words and examples may differ. This particular book is written by Catherine Ponder. It's one of over a dozen works that she wrote about healing, prosperity, and prayer. Dr. Ponder is an ordained minister with Unity, having served in a pulpit as well as organizing and operating a global ministry for decades, along with publishing books, doing seminars, recording CDs. And in fact, she is now in her 89th year and lives in Palm Desert in Southern California. So we all know and agree that honoring our faith is the result of many affirmations. In fact, Napoleon Hill many years ago wrote that faith is a state of mind and may be induced or created by affirmation. Repetition of orders to your subconscious mind is the only known method of voluntary development of the emotion of faith. So you just keep on keeping on. In truth, the quotes go on and on, from contemporary metaphysicians like Ernest Holmes, like Ralph Waldo Emerson, Deepak Chopra, Larry Dossey, Louise Hay, Oprah Winfrey, Greg Braden, Bruce Lipton, and the names roll off your tongue, don't they? Yet they parallel the words of ancient teachers, masters of introspection and spiritual leaders. And we grow our faith by practice, whether spiritual practice or very positive secular practice. Consider that Deepak Chopra began as an endocrinologist, a medical doctor. Bruce Lipton is a microbiologist. Greg Braden, a geologist. Andy Newberg, a neuroscientist. And I know metaphysicians now in ministry who were attorneys, who were opera singers, who were school teachers, farmers, and the list goes on. It's almost a guarantee that even though one begins the practice of building the mind power of faith from a secular vantage point, it morphs into a spiritual one. And as one deepens and strengthens one's belief, those two seemingly separate practices or belief systems become one. Maybe we should award medals for that, because it's a courageous and challenging path to remold ourselves in such a sacred way. As I mentioned a few moments ago, present-day material and practice parallels the words of ancient teachers, masters of introspection, and spiritual leaders. Literally, since recorded history became available. From Meister Eckhart in the late 13th century to the Buddha and back into ancient Hindu writings, there is profound mystical practice of active, positive, and expected results from a faith practice. There are also numerous statements in the Bible of the use of faith in positive, self-expectant ways. Hippocrates wrote about the mind being the source of our pleasures as well as our sorrows, pains, fears. And he wrote that in the 4th century BCE. And the ancient Egyptians taught that a pained body was the result of pained thinking. Along with these revelations down through the history was the knowledge of healing laws, and paramount in them was the active practice of faith. So let's look at how Ernest Holmes has incorporated faith into the science of mind. He begins by saying, the principle governing faith is that when the one praying becomes convinced, his or her prayer will automatically be answered. In fact, by universal law, it must be answered. So what's the hang-up? Why doesn't it always work? Or for some people, why doesn't it ever work? There's one word answer to this. What do you suppose that one word might be? Any?
Faith, trust, faith.
Why doesn't it work? One word. Fear. Fear. It's so push me, pull you. It's like we have two heads. We have two heads, we have two mouths, and opposing responses. We want to believe, but in which mouth? Which thought? Which idea? Some pray that God will answer their prayer, all the while fearing that it will not. So others pray that life is eternal, all the while fearing death, because the promise may not come true. We doubt, we deny, we dismiss, because we fear we may be wrong. It's no wonder we have issues, as Maria Namath reminds us. So in order to have faith, we must have a conviction that all is well. In order to keep faith, we must allow nothing to enter our thought which will weaken this conviction. Faith is built up from belief, acceptance, and are you ready for this one? Trust. All sciences, whether physical or spiritual, are built upon faith principles. All principles are invisible, and all principles are accepted on faith. No one has seen goodness. No one has seen truth. No one has seen beauty. But we've seen the results of them, so we don't doubt their existence. In order to vitalize our faith, however, we must have complete confidence that these qualities exist and complete confidence in our own approach to them. This thought conviction has power over any and all material resistance when we have faith. Described by Holmes as abounding confidence. Ooh, doesn't that feel good? Abounding confidence. Pure faith is a spiritual conviction. It's the acquiescence of the mind. It's the embodiment of an idea. It's the acceptance of a concept. And along with that knowing, we believe that our spiritual conviction is superior to any condition we choose to change or heal for our highest and best good. It's about aligning with this source of being we call spirit, God, universal energy. And when we're speaking from that standpoint, there is no longer any opposition. That's about letting go of human will and recognizing the pure essence of spirit incarnated in us such that it goes forth into creation through each one of us. God by means of me, thought into form. So next week, I'll continue this series by addressing some techniques which support us in acquiring faith, should that be an issue for us, and developing the conviction that supports us in moving into that glorious state known as trust. I trust in God. And in our midweek gatherings, we'll talk about some of the documented examples of the use of these spiritual principles in physical healings, in development of financial prosperity, and in an assortment of stories of lives being uplifted by the practice of faith-based practices, such as spiritual mind treatment and affirmations. So stay tuned. Everything to gain, nothing to lose. And so it is.